Heyo, what's up YouTube? Welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about Flash versus Ignite on Graves. So let's start with Flash on Graves. So Flash on Graves basically, in my opinion, is the more passive or defensive summoner spell to go for. And the situation I always bring up when I want to give a pro versus cons situation with Flash is really good against hard engage. And the best example for hard engage is Malphite. So if the enemy team has a Malphite on the enemy team, there's no way that you can E or ulti out of a Malphite ulti and dodge it. You can only do that with Flash. So if you're playing against really hard CC or hard engage, I should say hard engage. If you're playing against really good hard engage, then take Flash and then try to flash that hard engage, because if you don't flash the hard engage, you might just get followed up by the entire enemy team and you'll end up doing 0 damage in team fight if you're like being solo engaged on. Whereas if you can flash that hard engage, then you're pretty much still full HP. Still have like all your cooldowns up except the one summoner spell being Flash, which you don't really need because you still have your E and your ulti for dashes. And that way you can still do so much more damage when you're still alive and still have all your cooldowns up and basically your full HP. So if you're playing against something with hard engage, I recommend picking Flash. But on the other hand, we have Ignite. So with Ignite, you get the early kill pressure because you have now more damage, true damage, than the opponent. The opponent is most likely not going to play with Ignite. Your opponent is most likely going to be playing with Flash. Therefore, you have a damage advantage in the 1v1. And Ignite is the go-to summoner spell if you want to play aggressive on Graves. So Graves is a champion that scales really well, especially with my lethality crit build. But he's not weak in the early game necessarily. He has some good matchups where he can even like win level 2, win level 3. Because he still has damage and he's still really strong. But his power spike is definitely like after your maybe third or fourth item. But that doesn't mean that he's useless in the early game. He can still make work, especially with an Ignite. So if you want to play aggressive, you want to invade your opponent, either do the red into enemy blue Gromp invade or invade second buff, or you want to play really aggressive as Graves and basically be like up in your opponent's face all the time, then I suggest picking Ignite, which is also my personal preference. Because I just like having the extra damage. You don't really need Flash necessarily, unless the enemy team of course has hard engage, because you have your E that you can proc even multiple times if you are able to auto attack your opponent consistently. And you also have your ulti for execution damage, but also like a little bit more mobility. And therefore I simply don't see why you would take Flash all the time. It is of course a personal preference, and I personally prefer Ignite in most of the situations, but some situations against that hard engage I will take the Flash, because I know in a team fight that's where I'll get way more out of a Flash than I will out of an Ignite, for example. So yeah, if you like to play aggressive on Graves, I suggest that you pick up Ignite. If you are more the passive or the defensive Graves player, I suggest that you pick up Flash. Unless you're playing against hard engage, then I do suggest that you pick up Flash. On the other hand, with Ignite, you have the grievous wound effect. So basically, if the enemy has healing, you're reducing the healing of your opponent. And that basically means that you can wait a little bit with buying your Executioner's Calling, which costs 800 gold. So you pretty much get an 800 gold item in your Ignite. So you can delay that Executioner's Calling, and instead of Executioner's Calling, you can go ahead and buy a double longsword, you can buy crit, you can buy pickaxe, you can build lethality. Pretty much like whatever you want, because you have that Ignite. So yeah, that is pretty much the pros and cons of Flash versus Ignite. I will say they're both viable, and it really depends what keystone is the best. In some situations, Ignite will just for sure be better, and in some other situations, Flash will simply be better. But in most situations, it is just a personal preference and how you play Graves. And depending on how like your Graves playstyle is, you pick up the summoner spell that basically fits the best with your Graves playstyle. So that's pretty much the entire video. So if you have any questions regarding Flash or Ignite on Graves, then let me know in the comment section down below, or check my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/Khazix and ask me if I'm live, and you'll get a response right away. But yeah, I hope to see you guys in my next YouTube video otherwise, which will be Fleet Footwork versus Face Rush on Graves. Well, I just hope to see you guys on my next Twitch stream. So yeah, see you guys.